Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So a little backstory, I'm a nerdy 25 years old who loves to modify keyboards. I have modified a few of my own keyboards and ended up getting some good results. I then hang out at a friend's place who owns a keyboard shop who commissions and repairs keyboards. They also allow mods for their keyboards if they bring their keyboards there. I'm good friends with the owner and I usually hang out in his shop to learn how to build a keyboard from testing out the PCB, printed circuit board, to soldering the switches. The story. So I was at the shop just hanging around there and the employees and owner offered to teach me how to solder switches, to which I'm bad at. And there I just finished soldering around 10 switches. I am pretty thin and weak, so I get tired easily. There I was out to take a break from practicing soldering the switches on the PCB, and there came Karen. She had the haircut, the clothes and nails, everything that a typical Karen would look like. And she had the attitude and walk to even confirm that she was definitely a Karen. Even though I don't work for the keyboard shop, she started snapping her fingers at me and started to call me and grab my attention like a dog. I don't really work for the shop, but I headed up to Karen anyways and asked her for anything. Since the owner was actually in the bathroom taking a small break. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Karen brings out an old, dirty mechanical keyboard. "I want you to fix this. Can you do it?" Now, I may look like an adult and might be interested in working in that job, but I'm still a college student and I just didn't really work there, sadly. And I tried to explain to the Karen that I wasn't really an employee there. "I'm sorry, but I don't really work here." "I know you work here. I've seen you do stuff here every time I pass the shop." Now, I hang around the shop a lot, mostly because the keyboards are really well made, and I was just a keyboard enthusiast. And looking at the keyboard she handed to me, it was a whole mess. It felt sticky, it had hairs between the switches and the plate. The switches were stuck when pressed, and the keycaps legend faded. Dirt and dust were piled under the keycaps, and everything else was just a whole mess. To be quite honest, the keyboard looked like it's been used for key smashing purposes rather than typing or gaming. I wasn't really interested in fixing someone's keyboard, and I didn't know how to fix it, to be quite frank. I tried to explain to Karen that I wasn't really an employee of the shop, and I'll go ask someone to get the keyboard, but of course, she wasn't having it. "If you don't fix this keyboard right now, I will have you fired. I know the owner here and I will make sure that happens." "Ma'am, I really don't..." As I was about to say I really don't work here, the owner arrived. He tried to ask what was going on, and he was quite concerned that the situation was escalating. "What seems to be the problem?" "This employee of yours isn't doing his job. Fire this man." In my mind, I was like, "Really, lady? Or is she really serious about this?" Somewhere along those lines. Now, the owner is pretty calm and patient, but also has a way of dealing with entitled people. "Get me the manager, here's my ID." She shoved the ID in my face. "I'll have you all know that I'm the owner's wife, and I will get you all fired." She shoved that ID in my face and turned it to the owner. Now, here's something I know that Karen didn't know. The owner is actually a widower. His wife died over a decade ago, but that's a different topic. He knew that what she was saying was utter nonsense, and me and the owner got tired of it. He then smiled and said, "Well, happy to meet you. I am the owner and manager of the store." Now, he smiled, but the smile was so sadistic-like. He has a scary smile, one that might scare cats and dogs. It's like he was a predator, T-Rex or something. Karen went white. I think she just went from full entitlement to full on. I just pissed my pants scared when she realized that she was talking to the owner. "Now, ma'am, I understand that you're upset with this man, but he's not a part of our staff. He's just someone who comes here and learns from us, since he's here to learn what we do." Well, I didn't know. Furthermore, you claim to be a wife of mine, but my real wife died over 10 years ago. Karen's jaw dropped. She now realized that she screwed up and tried to apologize, but the owner has grown tired of these Karens and decided to take drastic measures. Since you're not happy with me or this shop, then I would like to leave this store and never come back ever. Ah, music to my ears. I handed back her keyboard and stormed off. He picked up a phone and called a few numbers. I couldn't hear the whole conversation, but I heard the words Ben and Karen. The next day, I was on my way to the shop only to find that Karen from yesterday was actually banned and tried to force herself back only to get grabbed by employee staff while they dragged her out of the store. Hey there, this is my first time posting. Tell me if you want to hear more stories like this one because I have many. A little context, I have asthma and have been diagnosed ever since I was 3. The smell of pesticides and detergents are among the strongest triggers for me. I always have my inhaler with me and I learned over the years to manage it. Now for the story. I was in a store shopping for some frozen breakfast burritos and toilet paper. I shop a lot at that store and usually stay away from the cleaning products aisle because of my asthma. But some rearrangements were made and I didn't know where the toilet paper was, so I was passing through many aisles. I came to the start of the cleaning products aisle, saw what it was, and immediately bolted. There was a lady in that aisle spraying air fresheners in the air to decide which one she liked, I guess, and saw me run away. She screamed at me, "Hey you, come here." I thought she was shouting at someone else as I wasn't wearing the uniform of the store, and I had a basket in my hand. I was in the middle of my hunt for toilet paper when I felt a hand on my elbow. "I am talking to you, witch." I turned around to see this lady, mask at her chin, with the ugliest shade of red lipstick. I'm asthmatic and at high risk for COVID for other reasons as well. So I reacted fast by taking a few steps away and saying, "Please put on your face mask. I am high risk." She seemed really angry and said, "You can't tell me what to do. I tell you what to do. You work for me. Now come here and smell these for me and tell me which one is better." I saw this upcoming scene in slow motion. Her taking off the lid of the bottle and spraying the product to my face. Twice. So I can compare between the two smells. I was already getting iffy ever since she came close to me because she smelled of the air fresheners. So my attack had already started before she even sprayed. I quickly threw the basket in my hands and started looking for my inhaler in my backpack. After I got it out, she quickly grabbed my hand and told me, "Help me first and get to your drugs, you brat." My chest was becoming really tight now. I pushed her away, causing her to stumble back a few steps and quickly grabbed my inhaler and saved my life. I was still catching my breath and coming down from the adrenaline rush from this whole interaction when I heard, "There she is. Fire her. Arrest her. I want her in jail." I looked up to see the woman who looked like a manager. The manager looked absolutely mortified. His eyes went wide and he said, "Miss, are you okay?" While helping me stand up, he grabbed my shopping basket and picked up things that dropped from my backpack. "I am better now. I just need to sit down and catch my breath," I told him. "No, you're going to fire her first. She can breathe on the way to the police station for assaulting an elderly," Karen said. She looked no older than 35 years old, by the way. "Elderly who?" the manager said. "Shut up, you idiot." The manager completely ignored her screaming and led me to his office, where I sat by the window to breathe a little. This all happened while Karen was screaming at our backs. Apparently someone had called the police because 5 minutes after we were in the office, the police were knocking on a door. "Yes, finally!" The manager asked me, "Would you like to press charges?" Karen's face was a carbon copy of a Pikachu shocked face. "What are you talking about? I'm the one who was assaulted by this employee." I finally had the energy to scream at her. "Oh, how can you be so stupid? I obviously don't work here. I also very obviously just had an asthma attack right in front of you. Who do you think you are, witch?" The police officer asked us for our stories. I explained what happened and, of course, told the whole truth. Karen said some nonsense that the police officer looked absolutely done with, and he asked for the CCTV and the manager gladly obliged and showed him the footage. I said that I want to press charges for assault, and the police officer put the woman in cuffs and took her away. The manager gave me my stuff for free and offered to call an ambulance, but I told him I was fine and used to my asthma. Anyways, I got home and I enjoyed my burrito. So I worked as an executive pastry chef for a medium-sized hotel here in England, where we catered mainly to weddings at weekends, but had a successful restaurant that ran alongside it doing two-thirds rosette quality food, about 60 covers a night. Well, as anybody who worked in catering may know, it is not uncommon to work a tremendous amount of hours in a week on a consistent basis. Here I was working about 75 to 80-ish hours a week, 5 days of about 14 to 15 hours and an extra 5 to 6 or so on my day off. Now, it's important to know that we did not get paid for overtime here as chefs. You worked all these hours and you got paid 37.5 hours, and that's 40 hours in work where they took 30 minutes off for 5 days for a lunch break that you never ever had. You do all this and life sucks doing it, but it's a job and it's not easy in catering at the best of times. So the straw that broke the camel's back comes when I get pulled by the finance manager because I left on one of those days after 5 hours. You see, they ran their weeks Thursday to Wednesday for pay and rota and so on. I left on a Thursday to go look after a family member on my day off that I'd already gone in to work to help out on. But because it was a Thursday and the start of the week, I hadn't done enough hours in that week to justify leaving early. Me explaining that it was 1, my day off really, 2, I worked 45 hours between Monday to Wednesday, and 3, I didn't get paid for any extra work. All that didn't seem to help. They got annoyed and said, "You get paid for 37.5 hours, no more. If you can't do your work in that time, then that's your problem. But you'll get paid no extra." Well, that played right into my hands. See, I mentioned above they had weddings at weekends and a busy restaurant that we used to have to service at the same time. If that sounds too bit and almost impossible, that's because it was. Well, the Saturday the following week was a big weekend for them. Bank holiday, big wedding, full restaurant and so on. So me and 2 of the other chefs decided we would work the 37.5 paid hours, then leave. So we worked Thursday and Friday racking up 31 paid hours there. Then Saturday we all had the full day shift, breakfast through till close. So we started at 6 a.m. and then 2 p.m. rolled around. Well, that's our 8 paid hours. So we left. We just simply downed tools, got changed and walked out. Left the kitchen as it was. Left the food prep where it was. Didn't finish prepping for the night. We did nothing. 5 minutes later I got a very angry call from the general manager who wanted me back there immediately to work the shift and finish the wedding and so on. Or they couldn't do it without me. I politely explained I was told to only work my 37.5 hours or it wasn't my issue. So that's what I did. The night was a disaster by all accounts, and it cost the company thousands in compensation to the wedding party and in lost revenue from the restaurant. Never mind the reputational damage. Didn't go back to work until the following Thursday, when my weekly hours started again. I got to keep my job. Not easy to replace a pastry chef of my skill who ran the kitchen for them most of the time. One of the others got sacked as he was easily replaced, and the other got his hours cut until he quit. Catering is not a nice place to work. They are real jerks. Ultimately, I left about 6 months later. I got fed up with working for free as it had just gone back to normal. Left being owed about £20,000 of overtime that I never got. The company went bankrupt and destroyed all the evidence of hours worked, employment records and so on. So we got screwed. The same guy rebought the hotel under a new name and so on. So yeah, it's all very shady. This happened 3 years ago and I swear it's true. It's really long, so please bear with me. If I can figure out adding a link, duck tags will be in the comments shortly. I had PTSD, depression, and at the time undiagnosed bipolar disorder. This will explain some of my behavior throughout. When my condition got worse, I adopted a 1.5-year-old McNab Collie, short-hair border collie, /sighthound mixed to be my psychiatric service animal. He looks like a small greyhound with a collie's markings, hidden paws. He's insanely smart and picked up training really quickly. When I would have a panic attack coming, he was trained to perform a very specific signal to get my attention and alert me to sit down while he tried to distract me. This is important later. My wife calls me a fainting goat because when I panic, I lose consciousness with little notice and drop wherever I am. My job was not safe for my dog to come with me at the time, so while I was searching for better employment, my wife would look after him. I was working about 15 minutes away from my apartment at the time when I got a panicked call from my wife saying my dog had been stolen. I don't ask questions, I just pack up my bag and jacket and bolt for the door. The manager asks what happened and I tell him my dog's been stolen and he tells me to keep him updated. I made it home in 5 minutes and my wife is outside shopping with our roommate looking like he's gonna kill someone. I ask what happened and they tell me that they had been sitting on our enclosed front porch next to the complex entrance drinking coffee. It was a sunny day and McNaps are bred for really hot weather, so my dog was sunning himself on a sidewalk on the other side of the half wall that separates our porch from the sidewalk. All our neighbors know him and he's a herder, so he never went more than 15 feet from his pack and would constantly come check in with us. He wasn't wearing his vest or a collar as they were in front of our place. They hadn't seen him for maybe 15 minutes, and when he wasn't on a sidewalk, they panicked and started asking people if they'd seen anything. A guy walking his dog said he saw someone loading a dog matching mine into their car and driving off. And that's when they freaked out and called me. I panicked and called 911 immediately, saying someone had stolen my service animal. In our state, animals are considered people, so stealing a dog is akin to actual kidnapping and taken very seriously. There was an officer at our door in 5 minutes getting our statement, along with a man who saw what happened and was nice enough to wait. Officer put my number in his phone, gave me his card, then said to call if I heard anything. We start wandering the neighborhood asking anyone outside if they have seen a dog matching mine. Striking out, walking the 4 blocks of surrounding neighborhoods, we start calling every pet store and vet in the area, starting close and working our way out. After 2 hours of calling and being on the verge of passing out, I called one last store I have forgotten about. They tell me there is a dog matching mine with a woman who has him on a makeshift lead in the store. I asked the employee to go over, say his name, and hold his hand up like he's signaling someone to halt. He does, and my dog does what he was trained to do, which is stand up and hug that arm to get my attention and break me out of an anxiety spiral. I tell him to keep them there, and I'll be there in 2 minutes. On my way, my roommate calls the officer, who says he's in an emergency but will call me as soon as he's done. We get there and we see a car matching the dog walker's description in the parking lot. There is a kid, maybe 10-ish, sitting in the passenger seat with the window down playing phone games. I recognize the car as one from the complex across the street from us. We walk into the store and I spot my dog with an impatient-looking woman standing near the counter. I call my dog and he immediately rips out of the woman's grasp and bounds over trying to tackle me. I go up and, in not-so-friendly words, ask the woman what the actual hell she thought she was doing stealing my dog. She makes some lame excuses about believing he was a stray and was trying to take care of him. I responded with, "Well, thank you for taking care of him, but screw you for stealing him." The employee tries to tell me to calm down and says I am being unfair and she was trying to do a good thing. I snap at him that he needs to stay out of this because he's not helping. The entitled mother then says in a snooty tone that Karens have patent, "Well, I asked a bunch of people and tried to see who owned him, but no one answered, so I rescued him." My roommate pipes up with which I'm 6'3", had bleach blonde hair and was sitting in the sun 15 feet from the dog. You did not try hard enough. She started to lecture me about starving him because you can see his ribs and he was so hungry. He has a very huge metabolism, working breed, and an allergy to starches, so I make his food from home. He literally eats healthier than I do. She then tells me that it's a lie because he ate an entire 5-pound bag of dog food before they came to the store, and I about dicked her. By this time she's getting pissy and trying to act like I'm an animal abuser and don't deserve my dog, and that there is no way he's a service dog even though I have his vest in my hand. She then has a gal to suggest that her and her kid could take so much better care of him. The employee tells me to be more polite and that I was out of line treating her this way. If I didn't behave, I will be removed from the store. The employee's manager had come out after hearing yelling and was out knowing any of the situation threatened to call the cops on my roommate and I for harassing this poor woman. I pull out the officer's card and tell him I'll save him the time because the officer has my report, and if he had been there instead of me, the woman would be going to jail for kidnapping. She panics and beats it out of there while I'm still arguing with the manager. As we're leaving, the employee follows us to the door and the manager lectures us about treating the woman badly and that I was banned from this store. I flip him off and we head home. I call the cop, but in my panic I've forgotten to get the license plate, so he told me to keep an eye out for her in the future. My dog got a steak and veggie dinner that night but started throwing up. He spent the next 3 months working that food out of his system, itching/chewing himself raw in places. I ended up staying home for 3 days with the constant anxiety attack, but my boss was chill and gave me extra vacation pay. The only good thing that came from this whole debacle besides getting my dog back was the next day I called the owner of the pet store. They only had 3 locations and I knew from shopping at one or the other store that he was usually there 3 days a week. I explained what happened and how the manager and employee had treated me and he told me not to worry. I should swing by his main store to pick up a few cow bone for the pup and he would handle the rest. I found out later that the employee was immediately terminated and the manager was demoted and eventually fired for bad customer service practices. I paid cash for a 2-bedroom condo in April. The condo came with 2 parking permits, one red, one green. The updated rules that were sent to me after closing states that an owner gets 2 parking permits, one for covered parking and one for uncovered parking. However, the rules don't state which permit is for which parking. Walking around the neighborhood revealed both green and red permits under covered parking, as well as about half of the vehicles showing no permit at all. 1 week ago, I received a notice on my windshield that my car would be towed for not showing the proper permit, even though the permit was clearly visible in a corner of the passenger side windshield. In fact, the notice was placed under the passenger wiper plate directly above the permit. I called the management company and informed them of their mistake along with a picture of the permit in the corner of the windshield. I thought that this would solve the problem, but I was wrong. I'm a nurse and I work the nocturnal shift. At about 1 p.m., my wife came in screaming that one of our cars was being towed. I immediately got up, got dressed, and went outside to find an employee of the management company directing a tow truck to tow my car. She said that it was being towed because it had the wrong color permit. I immediately pulled up the R&Rs on my phone and asked her to show me where the color codes were explained. She couldn't do that because that explanation doesn't exist in the rules. But she refused to stop the towing company, so I had no choice but to call the police. Upon arrival, I explained to the officers what was happening and showed them the R&Rs on my phone, and both of my cars with the proper permits. They told the management employee and the tow company that they had no reason to tow my car. The rep hemmed and hawed that I was parked wrong even if the rules didn't state so. The cop ordered the tow company to release my car. Problem solved, right? Wrong. I go back to bed and just fall asleep when my wife comes in screaming that they are towing the car again. I go back outside and the same cop is there from earlier. This time, the president of the management company, the one who oversees HOA board meetings, is there along the same tow truck driver and employee from before. This time, my car is already up on a flatbed. The manager told the police that I still had the wrong permit to use covered parking, even though it was the right one according to this unwritten rule that I had learned of earlier in the day. The cop asked the manager if she had inspected the permit before calling for the car to be towed. She admitted that she hadn't and was just going off of what the employee had told her from earlier. The cop asked her to verify that the permit was the right color to be under covered parking, and she hesitatingly admitted that it was. The cop was visibly perturbed and again ordered the tow truck to release my vehicle. He then gave a stern talking to the manager about making false claims and not verifying for herself what her employee told her. The cop gave me a case number and said that both reports will be available in 24 hours. I plan to use those reports to bring this to the attention of the HOA board, as I know for certain that the manager will try to sweep this under the rug, or will refuse to even acknowledge this incident. Update number 1. I was finally able to get to the police station for the 2 police reports from that day. Report number 1 at 2 p.m. Management believes he doesn't have a proper parking permit, but per RP he does. Civil issue between the RP, reporting person, and the management/HOA board over parking. The property has parking guidelines which are unclear of what vehicle could park where. The reporting person has been having issues with one specific board member who he states harasses him. They were advised he could obtain a civil harassment order. The RB's vehicle was not towed. Report number 2 at 6 p.m. Subject has credentials to park where he was told not to park. HOA did not verify before calling tow. They have been cancelled. The truck had a proper parking pass. HOA manager did not verify before calling a tow. They have been told they must verify prior to calling a tow or else they could face civil issues. I think that this pretty much shows how wrong the HOA management was. I am talking to an attorney about my best legal options. By the way, I received word from the HOA management company that I would not be allowed to attend the online meeting tomorrow because it is only for the listed owner who happens to be my wife. And I have a full legal, valid, and notarized power of attorney that gives me exclusive rights to discuss the property with the HOA board and HOA management. I shot back a nasty email telling the management company to go back to law school. Update number 2. There was an attempt to bar me from the meeting 2 days before it was scheduled, for reasons I won't go into now. The condo is held in a trust with my son as a beneficiary, which means from a legal standpoint he's the holder of the deed. The HOA management company tried to argue that only deed-holding owners can participate in violation hearings. This, despite me having a fully encompassing power of attorney for my son that explicitly gives me the power to manage all real estate holdings. In the end, my son sent an email to the HOA management designating me as his representative in the matter, and they were forced to accept it. However, the meeting was postponed until August 3rd. Edit. From the first viewing to the close of escrow, I have always been the POC. The POA specific to this property has been on file with A, the escrow company, B, the BIA, the condo is on leased Indian land, C, my financial institution, D, the HOA management company, the one causing these problems, and E, the home insurance company. The HOA management company did not even know any of my son's contact information prior to the 24th, as they have never had any reason to interact with him due to the POA. This was a ploy to prevent me from representing myself at the hearing, but it backfired on them. Date number 3. Today I received a letter from the HOA management that I have violated CC&R and R&R regulations by posting my open letter to HOA members on the HOA bulletin boards that is located at the front of the complex next to the mailboxes. I had posted the letter that I had sent to the HOA board regarding the intentional harassment by the board regarding my properly permitted vehicle being intentionally towed on July 7th. I went through both the R&Rs and the CC&Rs and could find no mention of HOA members posting on the HOA bulletin board being illegal. Interestingly, the letter states my violation is posting letters illegally on HOA info boards. I am no lawyer, but illegally generally means there is some state or local law prohibiting an act. HOA rules aren't local, state, or federal law, so I don't know why they are using the term illegally. No worries, I laughed it off. My wife and I have decided to go ahead with filing suit against the HOA. We have retained an experienced law firm that only represents homeowners in HOA disputes. Date number 4. It's been a long 2 days. First off, while this parking drama has been unfolding, there is a second issue that I have been dealing with. That is an HOA board member ambushing and harassing me in the parking lot when I leave for work at night. This has happened twice in the 5 months that we have lived here. This is a board member who has placed security cameras at various places around the building, including one that had pointed at the pool area, apparently recording people at the pool, including children. As a result, I had determined that the best course of action, after filing a complaint with the HOA board twice, which was ignored both times, was to request a restraining order against this individual. A temporary restraining order was denied by the court and a hearing was scheduled for today to consider the regular restraining order. I arrived at court only to be told that the hearing was rescheduled in 2 weeks. Important to note is that I received no notice of the date change as is required by law. Upon arriving back home, I was greeted by an email from a high-priced HOA law firm out of Los Angeles. The letter basically states that they are representing the board member and that my restraining order request has no merit, because he was acting within his duties as an HOA board member. What the letter failed to mention was that the first instance of harassment took place before he was seated on a board. The letter goes on about frivolous lawsuits, having to pay the board members legal fees and blah blah blah. It's a nonsense letter designed to scare me off of pursuing the restraining order. One thing of note in the letter is its attempt to conflate my restraining order request with my continuous parking violations. This board member is the same one who has 2 parking passes that allow him to park both his cars under the carport. US regular peons only get 1. The hearing. I logged on through Zoom to find only the HOA management representative with her camera on. The other 4 board members, including the one I have the restraining order impending against, were all blacked out. The HOA rep insisted that it was I that requested the meeting and therefore there would be no questions. I would state my case and the board would decide in executive session what my fate would be. I argued that it wasn't me who requested the meeting. It was the board that sent the violation notice to me. Anyway, I made my case the best I could by pointing out that no new owners were told what permit was for what parking. I then pointed out that a letter was sent in February with the details of the parking permits, but that I never received that letter when I closed escrow in April. And that letter explicitly states that the permits are non-transferable and registered to the individual units/owners. So the board member who has 2 red permits is in violation of the HOA R&Rs. My pleas fell on deaf ears. So now I wait to hear my fate. My wife, who has been supportive, has had enough. She's ready to sell and get out of this nightmare. She went so far as to arrange our realtor to meet with us this Saturday. The good news is that prices have increased roughly 15 to 20% in just 5 months. So if we sell, we will just break even considering our closing costs. Update number 5. Something that I have not mentioned up until now is my ongoing attempt to engaging as many other homeowners as I can in the workings of the HOA and management company. To that end, I set up a Zoom call and spread the word. The call was this afternoon and 15 homeowners logged on. All of them related stories from hell concerning the management company and its principal agent, who is the head of the HOA, and all agreed that the management company needs to be replaced. One of the homeowners is an active member of the HOA board, but is resigning next week. He indicated the other 2 board members are either resigning or moving so that there will be 3 empty seats on the board. Of the 15 on the call, 3 agreed to be nominated to fill those empty slots. It's a start towards cleaning up the HOA board and replacing the management company with a competent one.